Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the Marilyn Wallet by Linds Handmade, and I have used a twist lock or turn lock, depending on what you call them. I recorded all of it, so you saw my efforts to cut the hole on this. But I like this wallet. It's quite small, but not too small. I omitted the zipper tabs on the end, which I'm okay with. And then it's got lots of card slots and sections here to put money and receipts and a pen as well. So if you'd like to see how I make this, please stay tuned. Alrighty, so let's get started. My dog is down here. He's decided he doesn't want to move, so I'm just working around him today. I went ahead and already did the card slots. So the pattern actually comes with a cardboard piece that you just slot in and then measure up to the line and fold it over to get the accordion style. And then you just iron some interfacing onto the back like so. So I've done all of that off camera, so I thought I'd just pick up from here. So we're going to take our clear plastic vinyl and we want to stitch it to the left-hand side. So I'm just going to pop this under and I'm going to stitch right on the edge of this because we don't want to see this in the seams. But we just want to kind of basically tack it in place. So I'm going across. You'll notice I didn't backstitch. And then we're going to backstitch there. So this method means that you don't have to stitch your card slots. If you wanted to stitch them, you totally can. You just have to do it before you iron your interfacing onto the back. So you'd iron it, stitch it, then iron that on and continue. So anyway, there is that. I've also marked a line down the center. So that will be my cut line. And so we're going to cut it in half. I'm just using my Class 8 knife edge scissors for this. You want to go slowly. Because it is quite thick, even though I'm using, I'm also going to stitch down the edge, I think, just to continue to hold that in place. I've got my interfacing on, but just to be safe. I really don't like it when things move, so I like to tack everything, especially card slots, in place, as they are quite easy to botch up. I also always sew from the bottom up to keep the folds where they're meant to be, and I'm just making sure that all my stitches are going to be within the seam allowance. I'm going to do that on both sides here. So bottom up, you don't have to go all the way to the top edge because there's nothing going on up there. It's more just for continuity. So there we go. Now they're definitely not going to shift at all. So we're going to take our card accent pieces. So in the tub, I've actually got everything alligator clipped to the pieces. Card accent piece, here we go. I'm not showing you the pieces because they have the measurements. I hadn't blocked them out yet. So it says to put some extra strong interfacing there. I didn't do it. I'm not sure why I didn't do it. I feel I cut this over a week ago, so I'm sure there was a reason why. But it does say to put some Peltex just near this edge. Okay. So we're going to take card accent piece 1 and place it right sides up. And then the side where we've put the pocket, we're going to line that up on the right side. Like this. And clip it. And stitch it. And then for this one, we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to put right sides together and we're going to do the opposite side so that when they sit together, they're on opposite sides. So I'm just going to add some clips on and then we're going to stitch those. So I'm going to stitch and backstitch like this. And then I'm going to grab the second one and I'm going to chain stitch it. So I'm literally just pushing it in after the first one without a break and stitching it down like that. I love chain stitching because it just saves thread. Alright, so now we've got this and this. So that when they're right ways up, they're opposite. So then we're going to take card accent piece number 2, which is this little strip, and we're going to stitch it right sides together at the other raw edge. So we're going to stitch and back stitch, stitch along, and then grab the other one. And again, make sure your pattern's up the right way if you've got a pattern going. Right stitch, right sides together, stitch down that end, and then back stitch. And then pull it out. And so then we can just open that up. You can finger press them. If you're going to iron them, make sure that you do not touch your iron on the clear plastic. It will melt and you'll have to redo it all. I'm just going to finger press mine. And so then we're going to take the big part and fold it over to be in line with the short part on the other side. So it's covering our backs and we should get this nice little accent look. So we're going to fold it like that. And then we top stitch. Alright, we're going to top stitch along 1/8 of an inch, because all my top stitching is 1/8 of an inch, from the join. Like this. Now I could pull that out and go and do the other side, or I could grab the other one and just continue my top stitching. Making sure I back stitch, of course. We always back stitch. And then back stitch there. Trim this one off. You can trim the tails off now. And then I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to top stitch this edge. Like that, making sure I back stitch. And then I can trim this one off here and top stitch this one as well. So that's now what we've got. If you want to as well, we can top stitch along this edge just to make it flat and pretty. And we all know I love top stitching, so I'm going to do that. If you're not feeling super confident about your top stitching, you don't have to do this one. It's just going to help hold and press that edge in nicely. But again, if you're a beginner and you're a little bit overwhelmed by all the top stitching, you can just skip it. Trim off the tails as always. And so now we've got this. Now if you want to, you can also top stitch this open edge, but it's only open to the other top stitching, so I'm not going to bother, but you definitely can if you feel it's going to help you. Okay, next section. So we're going to just pop those aside, and I'm going to go back into my tub of stuff. I should actually pull it out of the tub. I'm just going to sit them all off camera rather than pulling the tub out all the time. Actually, I think that's going to be easier to just pop them there. Normally I'm all about clear space, but for convenience sake, this is definitely going to help. So this is my pen pocket piece. So I've used the accent fabric and I've already ironed it in half. And I've made sure I've got a little bird head on it, because on the actual pattern piece, it's got where the fold line will be so that you can work out exactly what you want on the folded half. So that's just something you may want to do, or you may not. You can ignore that if you want to, or if you've done a plain fabric, it obviously doesn't matter. So then I'm going to take pen pocket piece 2. So I'm just going to top stitch this to make it pretty, because again, I love top stitching. Now, if you had have done a plain piece, you could actually quilt this and do like a fun zigzag or something down it, just if you felt the need. So I'm just going to line this up along the bottom, and I'm going to tack it on all 3 sides. Tacking, basting, they're all the same. I'm just making sure I'm within the seam allowances. Like that. And so now that is one piece, so it's going to be easier to attach everything. Right. We've also got 2 liner pieces over here. So we're going to need those, that's for that, that's our back. We're nearly out of pieces, guys. Okay. With one of the liner pieces face up, put the pen pocket here, and we're going to stitch down. Now, all of my stitching, I forgot to mention this, all of my stitching is so far done at 2.5. So we're just going to back stitch, stitch down the edge, make sure everything's lined up. As fun as waterproof canvas is, it sometimes does tend to get a little bit slippery. So we're going to open that. And then we're going to put this one on the other side here. So if you want to, or if you're new to sewing, you probably want to use some clips and just clip it down here. Like that. 3 should do it, depending on how slippery and or stubborn your fabric is. But you always want to back stitch at the start. And then we're going to stitch down and back stitch again. And then trim those bits off. So now it looks like this. Then we need to trim this down so that it's exactly the right size. So I just need to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go and do that at my cutting counter so it's easier. So this is just a little bit bigger, and we're going to go and trim it down to size. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to measure it all out, making sure that this bit's right in the center. And then I will go and I'll be back. Oh my god, so while I was away, my dog has decided that my foot pedal is his footrest or headrest and started sewing nothing. Oi, get off my foot, mate. Okay, let's go again. So, we are going to take one of our, what are these called? Pieces. Oh my god, I can't think. I've lost it. Card slot pieces. There we go. And so we're going to lay it so that the raw edges are going to be at the edge like this. And then like this. And so now I'm just going to, if my dog gets off my foot, I'm going to baste them all in place. So I'm just going to start here. And I can stitch and back stitch and come down. It doesn't sound like it's stitching. What have you done to my machine, puppy dog? Created a mess. That's not ideal. I mean, I suppose it's my fault for leaving the machine on. But I wasn't even gone that long. Alright. So sometimes when you sew nothing, your bobbin goes a little bit dodgy. You just unwind it until it's back to what looks normal, and then you can just manually hand wind it. You can hand wind bobbins, it just takes forever, and so nobody wants to. Alright, so we're going to stitch along the edge here. I'm going to come down, stitch along the bottom, grab my other one, line it up. Now, if you want to, you can definitely use clips for this. I obviously haven't, but you definitely can. Don't feel that you have to freehand it just because I am. This is just me and a lot of practice. Okay, I'm going to trim off those tails. And so now we've got the inside of our wallet. So we can pop that aside. What are we up to next? We're going to do the flap next. So I've got my two pieces here which have been interfaced. So I'm going to put them right sides together. I fussy cut them so that we've got like fun stuff going on both the flaps. I like fussy cutting. I know it wastes more fabric than normal, but I just think you get a better result with bigger prints. Okay, so we want to stitch all the way around. You want to go slowly around those curves. So again, my hand is basically twisting to get all of the curves. So then when we get to here, my hand twists it. I'm not grabbing the end and moving it. I find that that's not as accurate for me. So basically I plant my hand and just twist accordingly. Of course, you don't have to do that. It's just what I've found has worked for me. So now I'm going to grab my zigzag scissors. These are my new ones. These are Fiskars. They're spring-loaded, like my other Fiskar scissors. They're just zigzag. They were on sale at Spotlight. So I thought I did get my husband to try and sharpen the other ones. It didn't work out so well. They actually got more blunt. So I bit the bullet and bought the fancy ones. I was also kind of waiting for a 40% off sale because I know they do it on the Fiskar scissors. Because full price, I think these are like $60, which is a lot for how often I really use them. But 40% off is much more nice. So, I have trimmed all of the edge to help it turn through better. And then we're just going to push out those edges. Now, if you've got a turning stick or something that you use, now's a good time to grab it. So I use my wooden flute cleaner and I just push along all of the seams. What it does is it makes sure it's all the way out and we're going to get a nicer, flatter look like that. So then we're going to take our Peltex or whatever you use. Mine's technically not the Peltex brand, but it does the same thing. And then you can just slot that inside like so. Now, because of the seam, sometimes it takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it in nicely. Because you don't want it to be causing issues in there. It's supposed to just be smooth and nice and give some extra firmness to your flap. So there we go. So I am using one of my turn locks or twist locks, depending on what you call them, because I just thought it would finish off this nicely, because that's going to look really pretty against the gold that's in the fabric. But if I didn't want to use this, I could also use a magnetic snap, all of which are fine. I've got a set of mini screwdrivers here. I got this for like $2. So it didn't cost much, but it comes with all the screwdrivers that you need. You get both flathead and Phillips head in there. Oops. I don't know where my flathead has gone, although this might be it right here. There it is. And my giant sewing needle. If you're wondering what these are for, they're to put cushion buttons in. You've got to be able to stab it the whole way through and grab it the other side. So that's what I use it for anyway. So I'm just going to undo my turn lock and be very, very careful that you don't lose the screws. One of the ones in the pack that I bought actually didn't come with one of the screws. So I'm either going to see if I can get spares from somewhere, or it's just going to be spare parts for something else. So I'm just going to take the screws out very carefully so that I don't lose them. Then I'm going to grab my turn lock and line it up in the middle. And then take my friction pen and draw the hole. So I've drawn on there, but it's okay because that's where we're going to cut, so you won't see it anyway. And we're also going to need our fray stopper glue. Now, the pattern actually says to pre-cut out your Peltex, but I'm quite happy to cut all of them at the same time. So, with my needle, with the blade facing up, I start in a corner and I go away from myself with the blade. Now you want to cut slightly on the outside of your marking because obviously your pen can't get all the way to the edge. So cut on the outer edge. And I'm just doing it very slowly and deliberately. And as you can tell, I have changed my craft knife blade and that come out pretty nicely on the top two layers. The bottom one, not as much. There we go. So we've now cut the hole. We're going to grab some of our fray stopper glue. Now remember, it comes out like water, so don't squeeze it. Just wait till you can see it in the nozzle and then just kind of wipe around the edge on both sides. If you've used vinyl for your flap, you don't need this stuff. This is only for fabric that frays. Okay. And so now, you know what? Now that I've lined that up, I can see I actually need to take off a little bit more. So I'm going to grab my scissors and just come in and do like 1 mil wider all the way around. Now the reason I'm using scissors for this is because trying to do 1 mil with your craft knife will no longer work. I should have cut a little bit further the first time. You also don't want to cut too wide. So it's always better to do more cuts and have less errors. Because if you overcut it, then you'll see it out the other end and you can't fix that. You can also get hole punches for this. Just need to get off this bit. Okay, so we put our turn lock on and then we're going to take our back piece and line it up. I just need to move that little bit there. As you can tell, I don't do these a lot, so I'm not super proficient at them, but that's okay. So then we're going to take our screw and put the screw into the hole. And then with our screwdriver, screw it in. So as tight as you can. I know a lot of people put some Loctite on here or super glue. Now I'm just looking at this. I'm actually going to make that a little bit looser so that it can twist. This is why I don't put Loctite on yet, because I still just need a little bit more out of here. I can't quite get to the other side. And again, I obviously don't want to overcut, because once I overcut, I can't go back. You can't stick more fabric on, but you can also always cut more away. So there's that. So now I can come back with this here, and I can clearly see the other hole now. So I can just drop that in. And so now that I'm happy, I can add some Loctite if I had any. I don't have any. I just screw it really, really tight. These shouldn't vibrate loose. I can't see that ever happening. And then I've just got a few stray hairs floating around the inside. So you can just trim them down. I'm literally just using the craft knife to trim off the excess hairy parts. There's still just one. All right, there we go. So that's now in and lovely. So I can always put your craft knife lid back on. Can't stress that enough. I have cut myself several times because I didn't do that. I have learnt my lesson since. Okay. Peel off the clear. So these ones come with like a piece of sticky tape on the end so that the end doesn't get damaged, which is kind of nice. So now, what are we up to next? We are going to, we've inserted that. We're going to put doing it this way, and then we're going to grab this, and we're going to lay your finished flap along this edge with the exterior facing up, so like this, center it, and then baste it in place. We can do that. If you don't want to eyeball centering it, just grab a ruler and double check. Like so, and then we're just going to baste it. So the same 1/8 of an inch, which is the same as our top stitching. Top stitching and basting are basically the same stitch seam allowance. And then trim that off. So now we've got this look. Now we're just going to put it all together. So I need my zipper. Now, I haven't done zipper tabs. I know lots of people love zipper tabs. I'm 50-50 on the matter. I'm just going to make this without it. It will still work without zipper tabs. You don't have to freak out at all that I'm not using them. I'm just going to cut my zipper tape to size, which is the exact size that I need. If you are doing zipper tabs, just cut it 1 inch shorter, or 1 1/4 inches, I actually like to do. I've got that little bit of wiggle room there so that this everything sits nicely. So there's my zip. I am going to singe the edges with a lighter. You always want to try and use the blue part of the flame, which is closer to the lighter. It won't discolor your zipper tape, which doesn't always matter, but if you're singeing outside stuff, it really does. So I'm just going to put half on. I always have the zipper facing me. That's the way I like to do it. And I get it so it's even inside the zip, and then just kind of push that end on. And then I'm going to wrap the zipper around my finger, and I'm going to do this motion back and forth until it goes on. Different zippers you'll find are more or less tricky to get on, but once they're on, they're fine. So we now need our zipper pocket pieces, which should be, you should only have left your external and that once you've got this. So again, if you're doing zipper tabs, pop them on now. Otherwise, I'm going to line this up along the top edge. Now I'm just going to baste this in place. So again, basting is 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Like so, so it can't move on me. And then, so you can kind of do either first. I might actually do the main body. So I'm going to stick that face down. Now, because of the thickness, I will be using clips for this. I'm going to clip the two ends perfectly together, and then just add some more in between. There's no right or wrong amount, it's just whatever makes you happy. So then we're going to stitch, we're going to backstitch to lock it all in. And you want to zip the zipper down to the end so that I don't have to worry it until I get to here. So with my needle down, I'm going to lift up my foot and then zip the zipper the other way. Just make sure you don't run off the edge of the zip if you didn't use your little tabs, which I didn't. If you did, that will not be an issue. So that's now one side attached. So we're going to do the same to the other. And again, if you want to, you can grab some clips and clip it together, because it's now trying to fight me because of all of the other part. I'm just going to move that aside so I don't knock it. So I'm going to baste it in place. Basting, you don't have to move the zip out of the way. Which is one nice thing. And then we're going to grab our exterior and we're going to put that on top like this so that the right sides are together. So this piece should now touch the zipper. Clip it on. I always like to clip each end and then just work it out in the middle. You're going to make sure that they line up. So this is just fighting me a little bit because of all the other stuff going on. But it does sit flat and it will sit flat. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to stitch and backstitch. Now I'm right near the zipper pull. So now that my needle is down, I'm going to lift my foot up and zip it out the way a little bit. And then trim that off there and there. And so now it looks like this. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure my zipper's open at least a little bit. And I'm going to come and I'm going to fold this down so that right sides are touching. And I'm going to start with this bottom edge and I'm going to add 3 clips. Obviously you can add more or less, but I feel like 3 is going to hold it nicely. Then I'm going to skip the corner because I'm going to trim that in a minute. And I'm going to come along this edge and I'm going to work my way up towards the zipper and clip that way. And so then I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to start at the bottom edge and work my way up towards the zipper. Like this. If you want to, you can continue extending your clips all the way to the lining because that is where we're going to start. It's just not 100% necessary because it's not really going to move. So now on these corners, I'm just going to trim them down so that they match. Just trim off that little curvy bit like that, just so it's not distracting. And now also because I've trimmed it, you can actually stitch it together from any side you like. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to line that up properly. We're going to stitch and backstitch. Making sure that everything's getting caught. Round the curve. Round the curve. So again, you'll notice my hand is what's helping the curve go around. And then backstitch. And I'm pretty sure I just lost my bobbin thread. Oh, and I'm nearly out. Well, that's lucky. That actually might just be enough. We're going to play bobbin roulette and see, but that might just be enough to do the closing edge, which would be amazing. All right. Tuck that back there. So now I'm going to take, if you need to, just check in to make sure that you've sewn everything correctly, and then open up your zipper pocket. But before I turn it through, I'm going back to my zigzag scissors and I'm going to trim mainly the corners. Now, if your zigzag scissors or pinking shears won't get through the bulk, just use your normal scissors. I like to use these now that I've went and spent like a lot of money on them. So I'm just going to chop things, really. The less bulk, the better, in my opinion. So we're going to just trim all that down. And then throw it all in the bin. By the way, it is super handy having your bin just slightly off to the side. I actually can just push this straight off the table and it goes into the bin. Grab a corner. I'm going to do this to my hand and then push like this to have something to grab onto. So even though you can't see my hand, that's literally what I'm doing so that I can then grab onto it. And you always want to pick a corner, and then I'm just going to pull that up and then flip the lining over that and then continue to gently pull. Now you obviously don't want to pull too hard, you'll break something. We want to turn everything out, so I'm going to stick my hand back in and push out the corners like that. Check everything and it all looks good and it all looks stitched. And then we're going to take our Peltex or stabilizer or whatever you use. Mine is called base stabilizer. And we're just gonna, I'm gonna fold it in half, but without a crease. I'm gonna bend it in half and then slot it in and then open it up once it's inside. Like that. Now, if you need to, especially here where the plastic is, you don't really want to go ironing it in case you melt it. So we're just gonna do a Tory squish along there. You could probably iron the other side if you wanted to. Make sure that that's all the way down, and then we're going to insert our twist lock part. So if you don't know where to put it, you can actually just fold this up, close your wallet off, and then that's where the twist lock goes, which makes it pretty simple for you. The other way is you can just fold it exactly in half of where the pen part is. And then I am going to take a pen and mark it. And so now I can see exactly where it needs to go. Now I just need to measure my prong slots that I need to make, which are going to be right here and here. And then we're back with the craft knife. Now you want to make sure you're cutting through the Peltex as well, or your stabilizer, because it's going to help stabilize the turn lock. So again, knife face up, stab it in, slightly on an angle, like that. And then I'm going to grab some more of my fray stopper, let it run into the nozzle, and then just touch it on there and there. Did you see that? It literally just dropped out. We push these through the hole. Maybe. There we go. Like that. And then this is the bit you won't be able to see. I'm going to put my craft knife away so I don't hurt myself. We don't want that at all. So I need to put the gasket on the back. So I'm just going to feel for where the prongs are. And then I'm going to put the gasket in my hand. And then just flick it on. 1 and 2. And then bend the prongs out so that they sit flat. Like so. And then if you're happy with it, so obviously check it, but I'm happy, so that closes. Now some people put some duct tape on the back of that. I actually think I'm going to be one of those people today. The duct tape just helps the prongs from bending. If people are really rough with their wallet, I'm one of those people, by the way. I'm very rough with my wallet. That's why I tend to not have twist locks on mine, because there's a good chance me or my child will break it. But if I was going to do it, I would definitely be putting the duct tape on the back. It's just like a little bit of added extra. You could also iron some stabilizer on, although it's going to be tricky to iron that without burning yourself. Duct tape works just as well. Okay. So now I'm just going to take this and tuck in those edges and hope that my bobbin has enough to get from one end to the other. Stitch, back stitch. Make sure it's all lined up. If you've got a tag, now's the time to insert it. Like a fabric tag. Oh, look at that. We had plenty to spare. I love it. So then that just tucks in. Give it a good iron, but just make sure not to get the part with the card ID. And you're all done. Mine needs a good iron, I can tell. But apart from that, we are all done. So there you go, guys. One wallet. All right, till next time.